Today's episode, we're going to be answering your guys' questions on rock crawlers, and this is going to be a series coming forward. Questions you guys got about rock crawling or builds and stuff like that. So let's get right into it.
So what exactly goes into planning a build?
Well, there's a lot that you got to take in consideration, right? You got to figure out what build you're wanting to build. What exactly you're wanting out of your build. If you want a mud truck, if you want a rock crawler, if you're wanting to do overlanding, or if it's just your daily, like if you're wanting to, like go get groceries and be able to go off-roading, right?
And play on the weekends. So what are some of the basic things that go within a build that you take in consideration, the differences between each of the builds? You can't just have one for all?
No, you can't have one that does it all, right? Like a mud truck is, when I think of mud truck, I'm thinking, from like 40s and above, like from 44s to big tractor tires, right? Very high horsepower, very high lifts, anywhere from 6 to 12 inch lifts. They're very easy to clean underneath. You don't have to worry about low-lying, like fruit, like drive lines and all that. They can kind of stick down a little bit. It doesn't really matter, right? Because the mud's not, it's like driving through water other than it's dirty, right? Like, so yeah, it's just one of those things. All your electronics and all your, like stuff that you can't get wet needs to be waterproofed. Intakes need to be up higher. That way, if you drop them down into, real deep water, some guys are still running pump gas, or, if you're a competition mud bogger, you're going to be running alcohol. Cutting a lot of weight out, they're not carrying any extra weight. They're not carrying a spare tire. They're not carrying repair tools in their truck. You know what I'm saying? A lot of their beds are even hollowed out. Like they'll bring their fuel cell up into the frame of the truck, and the whole bed of the truck might look like a frame, like a bed, but it's actually just a hollowed out bed. There's nothing there. The sheet metal on the outside is just to keep mud from, or like larger rocks from hitting the back windows and shit. They're also running like very large axles, like Rockwell 2.5 ton axles. That way, because if you think they got high horsepower, they're churning through the mud, right? It finally makes contact with the hard bottom and locks the tires up. It'll just spit axle shafts out like nobody's business. You're running 6, 7, 800 horsepower, right?
All right.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that go into a rock crawler build?
So rock crawlers, we're running heavily armored stuff. Everything on there needs to be armored. We're running, 4 links a lot, leaves, coilovers. There's a whole lot of different suspensions that we're running, but we're definitely running big axles. Tires anywhere from 37 to 42 inches is a common area for like a rock crawler. We're trying to cut weight because we armored everything, right? Our differentials are armored. Flat bottom trucks are running steel plates on the bottom to be able to take impacts in the bottom. We're running rock sliders. There's a huge amount that goes into the armor of a rock crawler build. All our low-lying fruit, drive lines, and all that need to be tucked up high and tight. We're running very thick wall drive lines. The difference between like a mud truck and a rock crawler is they're running like a really large lift. We're running the most minimum lift that we can to fit the tires that we're wanting to run, right? This truck's got a 4-inch lift. I keep it as low as possible, and if sheet metal gets in the way, we just cut it out. We lose the sheet metal rather than raising the center of gravity on the truck. Like if you took a mud truck out rock crawling, from 6-12 inch lift, all that weight's really high up in the air. The better the rock crawler, the lower it actually sits. You know, there's a common ground when it comes to belly clearance, and it's somewhere around 20 inches. Any more than that, you're just getting way up there where your center of gravity's real off. Your driveline angles are going to be real harsh. You don't have a lot of up travel in your suspension. You're going to have a lot more articulation though, and that's mud trucks aren't going to have a huge they're not going to have a lot of articulation, right? They just need to be able to soak up bumps in the bottom of the mud, but they're not going to articulate like a rock crawler does. The thing that rock crawlers got is we're still wanting to run high horsepower, you know, except for Toyota. It is what it is, all right? 95 horsepower, okay? But we're running very low gears. It doesn't matter if you got high horsepower or low horsepower. You know, like we're running very low gearing, you know, like as low as we possibly can. That way we get all the torque that we possibly can. Common things that we have in common is we're all running lockers. Mud trucks are running locked front and rear. Rock crawlers running locked front and rear. Overlanders are running lockers, you know. Rock crawlers are running like hydro assist or full hydraulic steering because we don't have a lot of movement going forward, and if we're not moving, the steering gets very tight. So it just depends on whether it's roadworthy or not, whether you're going to run full hydraulic. If you're running full hydraulic, you're not going to be running it on the road. If you blow a hydraulic line or something like that, it's going to, you know, you'll lose your steering. So you don't want to be running full hydro on the road.
So what are the differences between a rock crawler and an overlander?
So overlanders, when I think overlanding, I'm thinking anywhere from 35-inch tires up to 40. They're looking for a lot of fuel mileage, like miles per gallon. They're looking for that because they're going into the back country, you know, like real far. Their destination to destination could be, you know, 200-300 miles, right, before they actually hit pavement again. So they're carrying an extreme amount of weight in camping gear and recovery gear and, you know, fuel, water. They're carrying all that stuff. They have onboard showers. I mean, they're pretty much building a camper that's four-wheel drive, right? It's going to get you into the back country and be able to see some of the sites that are back there. They're not going to be apt to take rock crawler routes. They're going to be more the moderate route, or I mean they can wheel some of the harder stuff, but they're wanting to protect their ride because it's not trailered, it's on the road. So if they tear it up, they're, you know, we rock crawlers look at overlanders as a more responsible type, right? Like they're not full send drinking beer and, you know, like like stuff out on the trail, right? Like, but they're capable rigs. I mean, they're armored to a point where they don't want to carry any extra weight in armor. They're still running rock sliders and they're still running diff armor and stuff like that. But it's like I said, they're wanting to be able to be more self-sufficient than a rock crawler, right? They're out there by themselves 200-300 miles in the back country, so they need to set themselves up to be able to do that. They're running onboard refrigerators and, you know, rather than coolers, because they don't know when they're gonna get their next ice. You know, like they're literally cruising back roads from, you know, place to place. So that's a little difference in a rock crawler and a overlander. So one thing you guys do need to consider if you're running an overlander or your daily driver is you're not going to be wanting to run bead locks. Most bead locks are non-DOT approved. you can't run them on the road. So you have to buy specialty bead locks to be able to do that, and the cost of them is fairly high, right? They, like Method wheels, they have some that are like an internal bead lock where the bead of the tire slips in, like in the wheel. There's like a notch for the bead, and from what I've heard, they're fairly hard to break. But like if you're doing any kind of on the road driving, you're not gonna be want to run bead locks like that. You cannot have an external mechanically attached bead. There's certain places like Moab and stuff like that where they're not gonna stop you. And are you gonna get stopped? Who knows? Okay, like it just depends on how bad the cop would want to, pull you over. If they pull you over for something and they want to, maybe say if you were drinking and driving, like you've been drinking out on the trail and you got on the road, then they could use that as a way to stop you, right? And then write you a ticket.
So what about them guys that run half on, half off?
So the guys that are running half on, half off, normally they're like grocery getters, like they're daily driver. They're not gonna want to tear it up. They're probably still making payments on it. Like they're the guys that they're not running lockers. They might be running large tires, but usually it's 33s to 35s. Like a bare minimum lift kit. They don't even gain any articulation out of it. They're putting pucks up underneath their coil springs and stuff like that just to lift it, make it look good. They're doing body lifts. They're, running light bars. They're the guys that are running light bars with rock lights and, a winch bumper without a winch and stuff like that. They're the guy that, like, if you wanted to go wheeling, they're not gonna be able to freaking keep up.
Is that where the term mall crawler comes in?
That is where the term mall crawler comes in. They're out there freaking articulating it on a curb, like it's just. I mean, it's where everybody starts though. Also, right? Everybody starts in on that. Then you go like riding some trails, and unless it's like a car show build. Right, like you're riding some trails like on the weekends, right? Nothing real hardcore. Then you start like getting stuck a lot, or you can't make it through a trail, and then you're like, man, I really need a locker or whatever, right? And then you start morphing your vehicle into a rock crawler or an overlander, So I hope that helps you guys, and just know that there is not one build out there that can do it all. A rock crawler can go mudding. We don't really like mud at all. I don't like the cleanup of mud, and mud trucks can't go rock crawling, Overlanders is probably as close to rock crawling as you're gonna get, on the moderate side of things, but you're like the daily driver guys that are just building something for the looks of it, they're not gonna keep up with any of us. So yeah, hope that helped, guys, and as always, thanks for watching. You guys can watch some more of my videos right over here, but we'll see you on the next one.